introduce our guest. We're going to take a look at a young man who's now almost 50 years old. I want to give thanks to him for coming forward. We'll start with his story first, right after this.
We'll be right back after these messages. Stay tuned. This program is brought to you in part by Project Action and Sensei Roots Phillips and Zenji-Ru Bermuda Karate Do, raising the level of discipline through martial arts for countless students in Bermuda and internationally over the years. This show is also brought to you in part by Birdies, a family business serving Bermuda since 1939, and also brought to you by Bermuda School Uniforms. For all your back-to-school needs, call 292-6038.
For more than 30 years, Bermuda Healthcare Services and the Brown Darrow Clinic have provided state-of-the-art diagnostic choices to the people of Bermuda. We were the first facility outside the hospital to establish a full array of imaging services. Under the skillful supervision of Dr. Mahesh Reddy, we offer CAT scanning, ultrasound, echocardiography, X-ray, and MRI scanning. Our team of highly skilled technologists hold outstanding credentials, and our staff will ensure that your visit is comfortable and confidential. If you would like to experience our private care, feel free to let your doctor know. Our CT and MRI results are available from the Leahy Clinic in 24 hours or less. For more information, check our website at bhcs.bm or call us at 236-2810. Building trust, one patient at a time.
Every day we run into adults who have been through it. You know, you talk to someone who's taken the SCARS training and they say, wow, that really revealed something to me that I had suppressed for years. And so it's good that it's bringing it to the surface and now people can actually deal with it. And it helps to heal you. You become whole again. Because for so long people have had the fabric of their souls kind of destroyed by this issue. And so SCARS is healing.
Child sexual abuse has a voice. It's called pain. Learn what you can do to minimize the risk. Get SCARS certified. This message is brought to you by SCARS, saving children and revealing secrets. Please visit scarsbermuda.com for more information.
This program is brought to you by title sponsors Bermuda Healthcare Services and SCARS, saving children and revealing secrets. Real news, real issues, real people. It's Ceola Wilson, one-on-one.
This gentleman agreed to sit down with me to discuss his story. It's the story of sexual abuse committed by his mother's boyfriend. This man apparently abused him and his brother when they were children. I would just ask you to sit back and have a listen.
Yes, hello, good afternoon, good evening. 49 years old. I've been sexually abused by male and female. As far as I can remember, it first started out with a female. I believe, about at the age of, I want to say 7, by someone that was in the family that was trusted. In the family was cool with him being around, and with a male, it actually happened. I was in the presence of with my mom, who was her boyfriend. I was doing a lot of things that was, I want to say, I was getting disciplined by him, getting spanked during the buttocks, and in front of my parents, and in front of my peers, my brothers and stuff, and after a while, crying and screaming and all that, he took it to another place. He said, well, look, I said, you just have a little family out there, and by you getting your beatings and stuff, just started taking me inside the bathroom, and correcting me in the bathroom, but he took it to another level.
You want to say what he did to you? Or you want to just say you were abused?
He raped me. He took my innocence away from me. Beat me up, threw me down on the floor.
He did it to other siblings as well?
I believe he done it to one of my other siblings. I believe he did. I'm pretty sure he did.
Is this individual still alive?
No, the individual, he just passed away recently.
So you never confronted him as an adult?
Never got a chance to confront him. I ran away from him after a period of time because this happened to me over the years. I want to say about 2 to 3 years.
Starting from what age?
From about 8, 9.
So what was your mom's bit? She didn't know?
I actually confronted her about it, and she acted like it never happened.
So what did that do to you inside?
It's torn up.
So this experience has led you to what in your life? Because Scars talks about wounds on the inside that damage people. Like sometimes it could be drug abuse, sometimes it could be overeating, sometimes it could be a lot of things. How has it affected you in your adult life?
It affected me. I turned to substance abuse. First of all, I ran away from him when it actually took place. I spoke to my mom about it. Nothing had to transpire. I ran to my father's house, but she didn't stay too far away. When I got down my father's house, he was always intoxicated. So in the process, I never ran back home to my mama's house because I said down at my father's house was a place like a safe haven for me. But that's where I actually picked up my first drink nitrate. Every time I went down to my dad, he was intoxicated, so I picked up a drink from there. Leaving from there, going over to my friend's house, which stayed right next door to me. Just for someone that I could turn around and talk to, whereas like I felt love, whereas I could relate and sit down and talk to friends, and that led me to actually selling crack cocaine. I wouldn't say selling it, but actually being involved in it. I want to say at the age of 13, 12.
So you've been using ever since?
Pretty much well.
But you're a married man. How has that affected your family life?
Jesus, pretty much destroying my marriage life is very rocky right now due to substance abuse. Not actually getting help for what has actually happened. And I'm still got my wife here, but for how long, I don't know. I got my children. They see what's happening to me.
So how has sexual abuse changed you as a parent? You have a daughter and a son.
I never trusted nobody with my kids. My kids never spent nights over their friend's house. They never spent nights over my mama's house. They never spent nights out with anybody because I don't trust nobody with my children. Nobody. Would you say
you're paranoid?
Very, very, very paranoid. I don't trust nobody, even up to today. Like my children, my daughter, she's what, 22. My son's getting 18. I don't even trust the guys that she dates for the simple reason being I just don't know. I'm just so paranoid about someone actually doing something to my daughter because of what's actually happened to me. With my son, I'm paranoid with my son as well. I mean, you got a lot of predators walking around with her. You don't know who it is. I mean, for instance, and not pointing the fingers, you can have a child say, you know what, the parent, the teacher can say, I'm going to keep you behind for detention. For whatever reason, I don't know. But if I was to find out that my child was being kept behind at a detention, I would be up there.
See what's up.
Yeah.
So, but quite often they tell children about stranger danger, but with sex abuse, it could be right inside the family.
Yeah, it could be your mama, it could be your daddy, your uncle, your auntie, because it happened with me, with somebody that I was actually entrusted with, which was my mom's boyfriend. I never thought anything about it. I mean,
Did you ever want to take revenge, hurt him?
numerous occasions. I mean, to be quite honest with you, after that incident happened with me, I don't have no memory of my childhood.
Because
None
you black
whatsoever.
it out, don't you?
Yeah, the only thing I remember is what actually happened to me.
What happened with your brother though? He's on drugs now too, right?
Yeah, his on drugs. His drug of choice is heroin. My drug of choice is crack cocaine, alcohol, and marijuana. I mean, I use it as a numb to forget everything.
But when you come down, it's still there.
It's still there.
So what you gonna do?
What am I gonna do?
What is it you want people to know most about sex abuse and the predators walking around this country?
Me personally speaking, what I want everyone to know is don't trust no one. Don't trust anyone with your kids. I mean, as hard as it may seem, your granny, your grandpa, your uncles, your aunts. I'm not saying that because I'm very paranoid, but to each his own. But my word is to you is don't trust nobody with your kids. Because it can happen to you. It could be happening to one of your loved ones right now as we speak. We don't know. If your child comes up and says something to you that this is happening to him, don't turn around and take that for a joke. Don't say, oh, you're lying. Because first of all, you can look at your child and you can actually feel the energy from him.
There's something wrong.
You can look in the eyes and see the fur in the eyes. You know, so for when you see that and you feel that, and if you don't see it and if you can feel it, that means you don't actually know your child. So you need to actually get in touch with your child before you even entertain bringing anyone into your home to be around your child, if anything.
So in recovery meetings, they say you have to say it out loud and sharing helps other people to heal. Do you think this interview will bring you to a place of healing, hopefully?
Hopefully that's what I'm actually expecting that will come out of it. I still got a long way to go because right now I have to be talking about the abuse that happened to me. Right now I'm gotta fight with the struggle of the drug abuse now as a result of what happened to me then. So this hopefully will bring closure and healing for me with what actually happened to me, but I'm still got a long way to go to fight my drug addiction.
So as a man, why would you come forward and share your story? Why is it hard for men to do that? Why did you decide to do it?
I decided to do it. Something happened, I want to say about a year or two ago. I was up dockyard, working up there. This gentleman must have walked inside this bathroom and this lady was actually using the bathroom. So I told him, don't go inside the bathroom. The ladies using the bathroom. He goes, you know what? I'm good because it's doing some work. Long story short, she called the police, the gentleman got fired. A week later, I talked to one and saw the same gentleman up at Maximart. And he saw this little kid walk inside, two of them, a boy and a girl. And the father was there. So when the guy came inside, he said, oh, y'all know, this is your dentist friend. Anytime you need me, you see me, I'm here for you. Your dentist nothing wrong. I'm here for you. I'm got you whatever. You need any money, candy, whatever. And it's down on his knees, hugging and kissing the child. And the father's right there. All I saw was a predator. So I'm saying, you need to turn around to be aware of your surroundings and don't trust nobody. Basically.
How bad is it in Bermuda? How big is that closet? How many damaged souls we got running around here? It's a lot, you think?
Yeah, I think it's a lot. But with men, our pride, too embarrassed, too ashamed to come forward to say what actually happened to them.
Debbie talks about men when they've been overpowered as children by adults who should know better, that quite often you grow up thinking, why couldn't beat this guy? Like, do you go through that? Do you still want to beat him?
This guy here was too big for me even to entertain beating him. I basically gave in. Like, I spoke to my parents about it. You turn around and say you didn't know about it. Man, come on, you done the laundry. When you was doing the laundry, you had your feet blood all up in my underpants. Couldn't sit down. I was going, brushing my sideburns down as a kid with Vaseline to keep them all down smooth. Go to school, had my socks all pulled up, rolled up down, had donuts and all of that. Never really started playing with the guys, playing with the girls and all of that. I mean, I was going. I was basically going. I don't know. I was just lost. But I snapped out of it, came around, and right now I'm ready to try to want to tell people, pay attention. Pay attention. It's right here, smack right in our face. What we're going to do about it, I don't know. More people probably might need to come forward so we can turn around and take this problem serious, what's happening in Bermuda. And even after it's all said and done, we didn't even have the rehabilitation centers for people who's actually been raped for men. We didn't have the rehabilitation centers for men.
Would you go?
Yeah, I'll go. I wouldn't have no problem with it. Because if we didn't turn around and grab the problem by the horns when it actually happens, as a result, using myself as an example, look what happens.
So scars is a good thing.
Scars is a good thing. Scars is a very good thing, but that's just one step that all we can do is go there and talk about it. But we still need facilities in place after people come forward and talk about what they've been through. We still need facilities in place to help people that's actually been abused. And that's one thing that we don't really have down there.
So you're considering rehab for drugs though, right?
Yeah, I have to. Because I'm at the end of my rope, I can't do it no more. I can't do my family.
If they mean something to you, you'll try.
Yeah. I've been trying, but I'm still had all of this bottled up inside of me.
So you got to get it out.
Yeah. So right now, I'm this is the first step for me to actually get it out, but I'm moving forward now. I have to turn around and admit myself to get help. You actually said something to me the other day, and I took it into consideration. I'm not going to speak about it, but I took it into consideration after discussing it with my loved one. But even after I do discuss it with my loved one, I know she's not going to go for it, so I have to just turn around and do what I have to do for my family and for myself as well.
We'll be right back after these messages. This program is brought to you in part by Project Action and Sensei Roots Phillips and Zenji Ru Bermuda Karate Do, raising the level of discipline through martial arts for countless students in Bermuda and internationally over the years. This show is also brought to you in part by Birdies, a family business serving Bermuda since 1939, and also brought to you by Bermuda School Uniforms. For all your back-to-school needs, call 292-6038.
I have a simple belief, and that is when you are helping other children, it's very important because you don't know who your children will bring home. I have 3 children, and bottom line is I don't know who they're going to date. I don't know who they're going to marry. I don't know who they're going to work next to. So every child is a priority to protect. Every child is a priority to lead. Every child is a priority to parent. Because in a community this small, every child is your child.
This program is brought to you by title sponsors Bermuda Healthcare Services and SCARS, saving children and revealing secrets. Ceola Wilson, One-on-One.
So joining us in studio, we have Debbie Ray Rivers, the executive director and founder of SCARS. Thanks for joining us. And we have 2 guests who I just met. Well, the lady to my left I've known for a long time. We're like family. And we have another guest who's flown in for a week of festivities for SCARS, correct?
Yeah, a week of some meetings and definitely talking to some people, and really basically mostly for this show.
So tell me, just before we go to our next guest, how does it feel, 12,000 people certified?
It feels great. It gives me great comfort to know that more protective eyes, as you described, are now on our children, and that is so very important. We'd like to see one day, we wouldn't have to do a show like this. We wouldn't have to hear people's pain. Because the fact is, as you know so well, Ceola, sexual abuse of children is preventable. And it just gives us great joy at SCARS to know that we are close to 0.25% of our adult population have the tools and the knowledge to protect their children. And it's just so important that we continue this work until we have 53,000 adults SCARS certified. That's our hope.
So, Kanika, I want to thank you for coming forward. I don't know your story. I haven't did a pre-briefing, but for our audience, tell us who you are and your story.
Well, my name is Kanika Smith, and when I was very little, I'll first start by saying that my mother passed away in a bike accident right outside my house when I was 4 years old. My dad was locked up for whatever lifestyle he lived. I ended up living with my grandmother for a little bit. She, I guess after seeing her daughter dead, she sort of lost it, plus she was an alcoholic. So it's my biological grandmother. And so she allowed her boyfriend to molest me every night, basically, while she stayed in the same room with me and did nothing about it, Then after that, of course, they took me away from her. I became a ward of the court, like as if I had no family at all. The government took me, and they placed me into a home called the Sunshine League, which is very different now than it was back then. It has improved a lot, and I'm very grateful to those who have helped in there. And while I was in there, it seemed as though I had a target on my back or something, because I began to be molested in there as well by the older men in there. They called men because they were 18, and by women that was about the same age. Back then they had younger and older children there. It wasn't like it is today. And we had a lady there, and it's been many years. And I am allowed to say her name if I want to, because she's been deported. It was all in the news, Mr. Montanet. And she was a Barbadian, and she knew that we were being sexually abused. And I remember being caught. Well, I wasn't caught. The young man was caught on top of me in a bathroom one day, and she caught him, and she beat me to silence, and I wasn't allowed to talk about anything. Just a second. And come to find out, the reason why this woman done this was because she was taking all our donations and sending them away to Barbados. So if there was any kind of investigation, she would have been investigated all the way, and she wouldn't be able to get away with what she was doing. But not only that, I was victimized more by being put in the front of the newspaper to get donations. It does make me a little angry when I think about it, because I was being victimized over and over again. It wouldn't stop, and I don't understand it. It made me, as I got older, finally I found some foster parents, and I thank God for them, but even as I became a teenager, I ran away from them, and I had all these relationships, I call them relationships, sex. I ended up on drugs and alcohol, I even prostituted to get my drugs and alcohol. And people know this about me, but they don't know my story. They just see what they see when they saw me on the streets and homelessness and everything else, but they didn't check on us. Even though this one was deported, and they found out, nobody came to see how I was doing, if anything had happened to us. But today, thank God for programs like SCAR programs, the SCARS program, because I called them because I needed somebody to talk to, and I'm 46 years old now. You understand? But I had no one to talk to about this. Everything had to be pushed underneath the carpet. When I tried to talk it to people, nobody wanted to hear. Everybody said, just get over it. Get over it. This is what people actually say to us. Get over it. I'm not understanding how I'm supposed to just get over this.
Poor choices as well in relationships, right?
Oh, yeah, because it came down to where I felt like my body, because it didn't stop there. I kept being molested by different people as well when I got older, a little older than that. It didn't stop, but after a while, I went quiet on it because A 4-year-old doesn't want to stand up in court and tell a story like I had to. There was a lot of pressure on me. You know, I knew things I shouldn't have known. And when a child comes to you and tells you and describes to you things on men's bodies, they shouldn't know what it looks like. So please believe them. They're not lying. You know how many times I was told I was lying? My grandmother, when the police came, she blamed me. I'm standing there 4 years old. She's actually blaming me, cursing me rotten, you know, and then she tried to kill herself in front of me, to manipulate me, you know, for me to forgive her. I was still only 4 years old. You know, these things, I don't think a child's brain is supposed to be able to endure all this. I give thanks and praise to God because I'm still here. I haven't quite lost my mind, you know, but I still didn't get the counseling I needed. I didn't get the help. And of course, I kept going into abusive relationships over and over because I knew nothing else. This was comfortable for me. You know, if someone did love me, I didn't notice. You know, I didn't notice. And I guess even if somebody did try to, I almost needed the abuse to survive. I did. I needed it after a while. It became like almost an addiction as well. Not just to the drugs, not just to the alcohol, but the addiction to the abuse. If you abused me, I thought you loved me. Because everyone that said I loved you abused me. They did, you know, and now today I know the difference. But it took for me to get to know a loving father, God, for me to know what true love is. Because I didn't see it anywhere else. I'm gonna be quite honest, I didn't.
So how has it changed you as a person?
It's made me more loving to my children, to others, period. You know, to be kind to people, to listen to people when they call me. You know, been like a little light, you know, at the end of the tunnel. You know, you just got a little light. And I think getting that little light is all I need right now. I mean, I'd like to be a bigger light, a brighter light. But right now, I have to continue to heal. I've not continued to heal yet. But I believe as I continue my journey of healing, I find that when I'm sharing with others my story, they don't feel so quite sorry for themselves anymore, you know? Because so many people want to commit suicide today, whether it be like on purpose or by using drugs and alcohol and whatever, you know, they're doing. You know, some people do thrills, ride their bikes up and down fast and die on the bikes. You know, we all have our addictions. But if someone shares a story with you and you just sit and listen to their story, they don't feel quite so
alone.
Yes, that's the exact word.
So, you know how it is in Bermuda. People really don't think things like prostitution exist here.
Oh, it does every day.
And it's a lucrative business.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I did it when I desperately needed it. And one time I did it to eat one time because I was homeless. And I won't forget it. I did it one time to eat, even when I was sober. I had to do it just this one time and I felt so bad. And felt really bad, but I needed to feed me and another person, you know, and I sacrificed myself. But it was a little easier because from a little girl, I was able to separate my mind from my body. You know, it's like an inner denial. This is not me. This is not really happening to me. You know, and the same thing, that's how I got through telling my story a long time ago, because I was like I was talking about another little girl, not me. You know, so that's what I carried into that, so that I wouldn't feel so condemned and so ashamed of what I was doing. It was almost like I used to say, they made me into a whore before I became even a woman. Yeah, but I don't see myself like that anymore.
Thank God.
So healing has started to begin in my life, you know, and people would call me these things, you know, across the street on Court Street, you know, call me a whore, just like that. Yeah, I was called it before I even was one, you know, actually doing these things. But I started this as a 14-year-old, and I've only just told Debbie today coming down. I started at 14. Nobody knew. But I did. You know, and I can admit it. But I have to thank God that I'm not that person anymore. That I have my beautiful children to thank for that. I really do. And thank you for, you know, my foster family that helped me get back on my feet this time too. Because I had nowhere to go to stay and stuff, and they helped. So I'm very grateful to them.
So where are you now with your healing?
Well, I'm in trauma treatment right now with a counselor. I've just started.
How's that going?
Well, to be honest, the first time I went, I really got through because I used to suffer with bad anxiety. And she explained to me, she showed me the circle of it and how trauma leads to you feeling that way, of not feeling safe.
Okay.
And so that helped me a lot.
Because
I used to always feel scared everywhere. Like, if I'm here by myself, I feel scared. I don't want to fly. I don't want to do anything, But I mean, even just going on a boat sometimes would be fearful for me because I just didn't feel safe wherever I was, Right. But between and her, she's also a spiritually minded person. So it helps with me as well, But God has been good to me and his comfort as well when no one else was there,
So what would you say to a young person hearing your story now who has kept their abuse bottled up inside? What would you be?
Oh my goodness.
What would be your advice to them? Because abuse victims bottle it up. Some people for years, some people never tell. What would you say to that person?
Don't do that. If the first person don't listen to you, tell somebody else. And you keep telling until somebody hears you. Okay? Because you don't want to end up my age having to deal with the things that I've had to deal with. You can avoid it all. Yes, there's going to be some pain, because if you don't face it and deal with it, then you will be doing what I'm doing, covering it up with drugs and alcohol and all that. You don't want to, and sleeping with men or whatever to cover up the pain too, thinking that that's the way you're going to find love. It's not. Trust me, it's not, and you have to tell your story. Because if you don't, you look like I did, thinking that there was another child, not me. That's the way I looked at it for the longest while. Like I didn't feel anything, but I felt it. But that's why I want to know myself so much. So you must tell your story. And like I said again, if the first person don't listen, you keep going until somebody hears you. And now you've got a place like the SCARS program. And if nobody, mama and daddy ain't listening, or auntie and uncle ain't listening, you get on that phone and you call yourself. If you have to, you ask your teacher to call, whoever. Don't worry about getting nobody in trouble. Because you are the victim. You are the child. You are not supposed to be dealing with these adult things. No.
Okay, we'll be back right after this.
We'll be right back. This program is brought to you in part by Project Action and Sensei Roots Phillips and Zenji-Ru Bermuda Karate Do, raising the level of discipline through martial arts for countless students in Bermuda and internationally over the years. This show is also brought to you in part by Birdies, a family business serving Bermuda since 1939, and also brought to you by Bermuda School Uniforms. For all your back-to-school needs, call 292-6038.
Build your child's self-esteem and confidence. Child sex offenders like to target the child who might not tell. This message is brought to you by SCARS, saving children and revealing secrets. Please visit scarsbermuda.com for more information.
I think one of the most important benefits of SCARS is that it brings the topic to the table. And when I say the table, I mean all tables. It can be someone's dinner table. It can be the government's meeting table. It can be a police officer's table. It brings the discussion up. It's always been a bit of a secret. And so with things being a secret and a taboo, it means that the victims are less likely to talk about it, even though no one in their right mind would ever suggest that the victim has done anything wrong. Because of the taboo, it makes them so inhibited that they just cannot talk about it. Whereas the more discussions that take place and the more that people talk about it around the table, I have found personally that people will come out and say something because they feel that they're in a safe environment to do so. And that's a great progress that I credit SCARS with.
This program is brought to you by title sponsors Bermuda Healthcare Services and SCARS, saving children and revealing secrets. Ceola Wilson, One-on-One.
I really don't know what to say after that. Debbie?
It hurts. I mean, you know, we've seen tears on this set. You know, it should have never happened. What happened to you should have never happened. It started with abandonment of your mother, abandonment from your father, and then progressed from there. And you know, there were no protective eyes on you. And as I said to you on the phone, like, it should have never happened, Nika, never. Your place of worthiness was through your actions and the things that you did. That's where you needed to feel worthy and loved and safe. And so none of it is your fault. That's what I want to start with. What happened to you was not your fault.
So for people who think scars fixes people, that's not your role.
Absolutely not. We are in the community to provide prevention, education, and awareness, and support, and really help survivors know that, you know, that there is a place for them to go for healing, and we provide those resources.
And you direct people to the place they need to go.
Absolutely, and that's what I did with Nika. Nika called and just, you know, needed to be validated and affirmed of her story. She shared her story with me. I think we cried together, and then I recommended that she get some help because she needed that. She needed someone to talk to. She needed to share her story.
What about our other guest, the one we just played, the gentleman?
Yeah, so we met a couple of years ago through someone else, and I knew that I didn't know the details of his story, but I knew he had a story, a powerful story, and you know, I mean, we have to look at people's heart. We cannot, you know, when we look at someone, we can't say, well, what's wrong with you? We have to say, you know, when we see behaviors, we have to say, what happened to you? What is your story? Because we, as my friend Laverne Davis says, you know, you don't know who you're sitting next to, and you don't know what someone's story is and what their pain has been and what their life journey has been. And when we see behaviors, we have to ask ourselves, and it may not be sexual abuse. It can start with abandonment of someone who brought them into the world that they lose. You know, it can start with, you know, some sort of abuse. But I can tell you, sexual abuse, you know, takes people down a dark road, and everybody's pain looks different. And what we need our survivors to know is that what happened to them is not their fault. And the other thing, Ceola, is our survivors need support throughout their journey. And that is why SCARS, you know, has recently developed a brochure, how to support a survivor of childhood sexual abuse. And anyone who does our training gets this brochure. I'm also going to take hard copies around to different resources.
How do you support someone?
Well, here's the brochure. Take time to listen. You know, try to understand their story. Let them know that they can share as little or as much about their experience that they wish. This is about them. Let them know that, you know, even if you don't want to talk about it right now, I'm still here for you. And when you're ready, I'm here. You know, ask them, what can I do to help you feel safe? We heard the word safe earlier. Survivors don't feel safe. There's certain things that happen in their life that, you know, that will make them feel unsafe. Triggers of their body, triggers of what people say, feelings or smell, or even a smell will make them feel unsafe. You know, so figure out what that is. Allow them the space to, you know, to feel whatever they need to feel. You know, show them appreciation and support. Thank them for sharing their story with you. You know, demonstrate appropriate boundaries. Ask them what it is that will help them to feel safe. Find out what that is. You know, accept and understand their communication of how they're going to communicate this. Help them gain back their power. Children lose power when they're abused. You know, help them get that control back. That's really important. And ask them how you can do that to help them gain that control.
I still get stuck, though, when a child tells their mother and they don't believe them. Like, that's the one thing that keeps swirling around my head since we started this. I just can't get it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a lot of reasons for that. There are a couple of reasons. One is if they believe them, then they have to deal with it. That means changes in their life as an adult. Perhaps it is shock. Some people aren't prepared for this, what they're about to hear, and they're shocked. So the first thing is minimization or denial, and then in months to come or time to come, it comes around and they realize, wow, maybe this did happen. Because a lot of the people, when a mother says that, right away you take ownership. I didn't protect my baby. This is my fault. And they go down that road, and their way of self-protection is to either minimize it, deny it, justify it. There's many reasons for that.
So let's bring in our other guests. Tell me who you are and why you're here.
Well, thank you for having me, first of all.
Sure.
My name is Kevin McNeil. I am a former detective, special victim detective. I actually
So
investigated.
you're like Law and Order SVU?
I am. That's me. Not quite as easy as that, though. Yeah. So I did that for 20 years.
In Atlanta?
In Atlanta, Georgia, yes. Right. And so I started seeing a lot of things that I didn't think that the police department had prepared me to investigate. They were more concerned about me putting people in jail than they were about me helping people get help. And so in 2017, I decided I wanted to help people more. I wanted to help victims more. And so when I went to my police department and told them that, they felt like, it wasn't appropriate. They told me, we pay you to put people in jail, not to advocate for victims. So I resigned. And so now I do this full time. I educate people on the effects of abuse. I've traveled around the country and the world, telling my story, telling people how to heal from abuse.
So tell me your story.
Yes. I was a little 12-year-old little boy. I was an excited little boy, like any other little boy.
You grew up in Atlanta?
I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee, actually. Okay. I was a very energetic little boy. Although I was bullied, I was talked about, it didn't matter. I was still a young boy. But I wanted it to stop. I grew up in an abusive household. I grew up, watching my mom getting beat by my stepfather. I grew up hearing strange sounds at the in other bedrooms of my other relatives being abused. And at the age of 12, I just wanted to live a normal life. And I remember I asked my mom for a weight set because I wanted to be a bodybuilder. And the reason I wanted to be a bodybuilder because I wanted to look intimidating. So I didn't want people to mess with me anymore. So my mom couldn't afford that. And so I remember my friend had a weight set. And so I asked my mom, I said, Mom, can I go home after school and lift weights with him? She said, sure. One day I was lifting weights with him. I lost track of time. My mom always wanted me to get home before dark. And I remember it was dark. I remember what my mom said. And I said, I got to get home. I got to get home. And I started running home, but it was already too late. And so what happened was when I took a shortcut behind a high school, and out of nowhere appeared this guy out of nowhere.
So did you know him?
I didn't, but you would have thought this guy knew me. He knew exactly what to say to me. He's told me he had stolen some weight sets out of the high school gym, which I was taking a shortcut behind the high school to get home quicker because I didn't want my mom to be upset with me. And he led me down these stairs, and he told me it was on a set of bleachers. And when I went halfway under and looked, there were no weights. And when he realized that I knew that there were no weights, he then grabbed me. He grabbed me and started just beating me. I was 12 years old. I didn't know what this man wanted me. I mean, he was beating me, throwing me on the ground. And then he decided he wanted to rape me because I didn't know what he wanted. And I asked him, I don't have any money. I don't have any shoes. And he told me to take my clothes off. And then I remember him removing his penis, and he forced me to perform oral sex on him. And he told me that I better not bite him. And so after he was done performing oral sex, he told me to take my clothes off, told me to bend over, and he was putting it in my rectum. And it began to hurt so bad, and I get to screaming. Every time I screamed, he would hit me, tell me to be quiet. And then he told me to take my clothes all the way off because I had my pants down to my knees. And I guess he felt like that was making it difficult for him to penetrate me. And so I knew if I could put my pants all the way off, I would not have survived that. I knew he had no intentions on allowing me to survive. And so I pretended to pull my pants off. And when I looked behind me, he was taking his pants off. And that was my opportunity to run. And so I ran as fast as I could. And that was one thing that kept my foot moving. That was a light. It was near the railroad tracks, a goalpost, a light. I just wanted to run towards the light. And that's what I kept remembering, run towards the light, run towards the light. And I darted out of that football stadium. I started running towards the light, and I saw more lights. These were cars on the highway. So I darted out into the street, and cars began to swerve left and right. They didn't stop, but they began to swerve left and right. And I looked back, he disappeared. He began to walk away. And here I was, a 12-year-old little boy. I didn't know what had just happened. And so now I'm walking home. And when I get on the street where I live, I see my mother, my brothers, and my sisters. They're waiting on my arrival because it's late now. They're wondering where I'm at. And I realized I had on no shirt, no shoes. I was limping. I could still smell the guy's odor on my body. And I can still feel his hands around my neck. And so when I got up to the porch, my mom thought I had disobeyed her, and she had a belt in one hand. But when the light hit me, she saw the condition I was in, and she was like, "Oh my God, my son, what happened to you?" And I looked at my mom, and I couldn't tell. I saw the pain on her face. Now, you got to remember, I never knew my father. I grew up in an abusive home. I was always bullied. And now this, I couldn't dare tell my mom that this had happened to me.
So what you tell her?
I told her I was robbed. I lied to her. And being in the community that we lived in a poor community, that was believable. And she wanted to call the police. She was like, "Let me call the police." I said, "No, Mom, don't, please." Because somehow I knew the police would get the truth out of me. And plus, I didn't trust the police. The police had come to my house before doing domestic
And you still
services.
ended up being a police.
I did, right?
Wow.
And so they would come to my house doing domestic disputes when my mom was getting beat. And they would make threats to her to not call them anymore, or they would take her to jail. And so I remember that as a little boy, the response that I got when my mom disclosed her abuse. So I didn't want to disclose my abuse and get those same responses. So I lived with that for all my life. And the irony is that I played football as a teenager and ran track in that very same stadium that my abuse occurred. And not once did I talk about what happened to me.
So how long was it before you told anyone?
It was, man, I was a police officer. And here's why I told. I began to have addictions. I began to abuse alcohol. I had sexual addictions. People used to ask me what was my most fearful thing as a law enforcement officer. They used to think it was getting killed in the line of duty, but it wasn't.
What was it?
It was me coming home at the end of my shift, looking at the guy that was staring back at me, because I was suicidal. I used to hide my gun in the closet because I was having thoughts of suicide. I used to drink myself into a stupor. And if it wasn't sex, it was alcohol that I was using to cover it up.
What changed you?
What changed? I went to a child advocacy center. I watched a little boy tell his story. I was a law enforcement officer. I was doing my own investigation, and we had to do what we call forensic interviews, where the child comes in and tell their story, and I'm in another room watching. And what changed was this little boy walked in. He looked defeated. He looked defeated, and he had a similar story as mine. He was molested by his uncle. But I watched the difference in how the forensic interviewers, the people who had been trained at that center, were interviewing him differently. They sat beside him and not in front of him, right? They didn't sit in front in a very confrontational way. They gave his power back. They allowed him to sit where he wanted to sit. And I watched this little boy come alive right in front of me, my face. He was resurrected right in front of me. It was because of the way they interviewed him. They allowed him to tell his story on his terms. And so that's what allowed me to look, and I said, you know what, I need help. I really do need help. And so I started going to therapy. And then ironically, someone asked me, would I train some sane nurses as a detective to teach them how to collect evidence for our sexual assault cases? And I didn't know what to say. I never told anybody. And I said, you know what, I'm gonna tell my story. And for the first time, at 40 something years old, I got up in a room full of strangers and told my story. And when I looked out into the audience, everybody was crying. And then people came up to me, even guys, for the first time, revealed to me that they too were victims of abuse.
Tell me about that, because it appears that it's harder for men to talk about than women.
Yeah.
Your guy, tell me about that.
Yeah, so that was one of the hardest things, because back then,
did you have issues? Like, did you think maybe you might be gay? Or
because back then, homosexuality wasn't as accepted as it is today. It was really looked down upon, and that's what really bothered me. And so, if you see, I played football, right? I went into football. I went into all these masculine fields. I played football. I went into the military. I became a police officer. I was hiding behind all these uniforms to hide my sense of vulnerability, because I felt like, does that make me gay? My promiscuity became as a result of me trying to sleep with as many women as I could to prove that I wasn't gay. But in the process, I was hurting these women. right? I didn't want anything from them but sex. And so I was using them to cope with my pain.
So what's that like for you now?
That is because I know that, I understand the true definition of abuse. You know, oftentimes when we think of abuse, we think of this drastic, horrific thing that you can see by looking at a person and tell that they've gone through an abuse. But for me, abuse, the root word is use, right? Where we get the word utility from.
So you still have free willy syndrome?
No, I don't. Because I met, and here's the thing, I met my beautiful wife training people about abuse and trauma. She was one of those nurses in the classes I was teaching.
Wow.
Yeah, and so at that point, I was in the healing process. I always tell people healing is an ING, really not an ED, because you're always going through the process. And so I met her. And so she was a gift from God. You know, it was just amazing. By that time, I had changed. I had gone through therapy. I had started understanding what abuse was. You know, the root word, use, where we get utility from, purpose, power, potential. AB means to kill, steal, or to destroy something. So abuse means to kill, steal, or to destroy someone's purpose, power, or potential. And so oftentimes, we don't realize we can do that in subtle ways by forcing victims to tell their story when they're not ready to. And so that's one of the things I really teach and train people on. Now I travel the country and the world using my story to heal others.
So what would be your main piece of advice to someone who's been through this and keeping it locked inside? What's your main message?
My main piece of advice is, like Kanika said, to find someone to tell, find an organization. I think what saved me, what gave me a buffer against some of the effects of my trauma, was I was a part of a community. I went onto that football field. I became a soldier. I became a police officer. I was in this community where people were surrounding me. And so I would tell people, find your community, right? Ask, people, like Scars, call and get some advice, read upon trauma. And there are people out there like the Scars program that can really help you. But once you find that community of survivors, then you can become better comfortable and be more comfortable around people who share the same thing that you share. Yeah.
And Kevin uses a word that I had never heard before called support informed. We hear trauma informed, but the word support informed, because we do not have psychologists working at SCARS. That's not, we're about prevention, education, and awareness. But if a survivor called and I'm on the other line, I'm a survivor and I feel the pain.
Yeah.
But we will definitely, I definitely say to them, now's the time, get some help, share your story, get some professional help, because, SCARS is not psychologists. We're not, skilled in that does take a skill.
A lot of the time people just want a listening ear. I noticed since I've been posting on this subject, working on this series, social media, I've had tons of people reach out to say, until I saw this show, I never told anyone. I've had several men talk to me about sexual abuse by family members. One lady said, it's touched her family, and what really ticked her off is they tell children about stranger danger.
Yeah.
Most of the time, that person's in your house.
Yeah. Yeah, and another thing I like to tell people about when they talk about not just being trauma-informed or being survivor-informed is that we have to be careful on how we respond to abuse, because you got to remember how much courage it takes for a victim to actually tell their story and come forward. And for a little person, they have disrupted everything, every rule that they've been taught as a little person. Because you got to remember, we say things to children to keep them silent. We teach our children to be silent. We say what happens in this house stays in this house, right? We say, keep crying. I give you something to cry about. I brought you into this world. I take you out, right? So these are the things that we're training children, and they hear this. They hear this from adults. They hear this from parents, and so they become afraid. Another thing I like to tell people and parents who are people who have to listen to abuse victims, don't use don't language a lot. We always tell our kids what don't do. Don't let anybody touch you. Don't do this. Well, what happens if it happens, the child feel like they've already let you down. Instead, use do language. Do tell me if somebody touches you there. Because children want the parents to be proud of them. So when we give children don't language, they feel like they're going to get in trouble, because that's the one thing that they're afraid of. And that's what the molester tells the child. If you tell, you're going to get in trouble. And believe it or not, in my story, the one thing that I thought about more than anything was I going to get in trouble? I was 12 years old. I was already past my curfew. If the police came, the police represented trouble to me. So I like to tell people, oftentimes we ask victims, what would you say to a victim? But I like to give advice to people who need to listen to the disclosure, because how you respond will determine how that victim feels for the rest of their lives. Like if you don't believe a victim the first time, they're less likely to tell another time.
Wow.
And it sets them up for repetitive abuse, because they feel like, what's the use of telling? The first time I told,
didn't do anything.
And the person that I told, who I thought was going to protect me,
didn't do anything.
Yeah, and that was the reason that I told you.
Right. So Debbie, in closing, what you working on next year?
Well, we're going to keep on training, that's for sure. And the work is not going to stop. We want everybody to hear this message. We want every parent. We have new parents out there. We want parents to get into the room and equip themselves with this information so that they can pass it on to their child, so that their child can be able to tell them if somebody ever made them feel uncomfortable, if someone ever has done anything to them. Let them know. We want we at SCARS are so proud of our youth serving organizations in this country who have taken this issue seriously, who require their staff to be trained, and many of our organizations require it every 3 years. We always say we want to keep this message on the hearts and minds of our people, because I'd like to say sexual abuse has gone away, but it hasn't. Yeah. And so that's why we have to keep the message going. We have to continue to advocate, to make aware, and keep the message alive. We do have a campaign that's going to be happening in the new year with another nonprofit that we're partnering with, and we're excited about that. I don't want to say too much about it right now, but we're not going to stop this message, because children are important and they grow up to be adults. And they're going to be part of this society, and you're going to work with them, or you're going to marry them, or you're going to date them, you're going to know them, you're going to be a friend of theirs, and we need to have healed children.
Yeah, we have to remember that hurt people.
They go on to hurt people, absolutely. And we need not healed children, we need children that feel safe and protected and unconditionally loved.
There's really not much I could add to that. Those of you who know Kanika would know she has an awesome voice. She's going to finish in song for us. I'm going to leave it here.
Father, I come to you in the fire hour of the night, knowing you have the power to shine your marvelous light, I have come before many times in your name, but this time is different. I won't be the same. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Thy will be done. Today has been good, sitting under your bright shining sun, your bright shining sun, meditating on all of the wonderful things you have done, the things you have done, knowing that you are beside me all the while. I'm finally realizing that I am your child. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. I need you, Lord. I love you, Lord. That's why I pray, that I pray thy will be done. Thank you. Thank you very much.
If you're a survivor of childhood sexual abuse, we really encourage you to reveal your secret, to talk about your pain. Please visit our website, scarsbermuda.com, and go to the tab that says Resources for Healing. We have names and numbers of agencies. We have amazing agencies in our community that help with healing, and we just encourage you to reach out to somebody and start to receive the healing that you so deserve, because what happened to you was not your fault, but you can heal.
Times the price just to get something here.
Babe, what are you using? Haven't you heard of My Bermuda Post?
My Bermuda Post? What's that?
My Bermuda Post is a free-to-join international shipping address like no other. Signing up gives you a personal My Bermuda Post shipping address. From here, you get a customer number and a U.S. address and can go shop from any retailer and send it right to your My Bermuda Post address in the U.S.
Really?
Yeah. Anything you buy is shipped within 3 to 5 days, and the post office will receive and deliver directly to your doorstep. No need for you to go anywhere.
So I just sign up?
Yeah, it's free. Signing up gives you free delivery, a free lifetime membership, discounted shipping rates, and so much more. So what are you waiting for? Join mybermudapost.bm today. mybermudapost.bm, mybermudapost.bm, mybermudapost.bm. You shop, they drop, deliver to your door.
Did you know that you should never overtake a vehicle that is stopped at a crosswalk? Assume that a pedestrian may be crossing, even though you are unable to see anyone. This message is brought to you by the Bermuda Road Safety Council.
Good day, beautiful people, and welcome back to another episode of I Don't Know Who Needs to Hear This. I swear, between cars getting bigger and bigger, the level of common sense declining, and the level of selfishness rising, it's becoming more and more risky being a pedestrian. It's like it's never been more imperative to keep your wits about you when out for a walk or run, etc. Our roads have been dangerous for years, but these days, I hate to say it, they're more deadly than ever. So please, please, please be careful. Drive safe, Bermuda. Okay, bye.